Again, awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome to our Health Talk. Our Health Talk we host here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've been doing this for the last almost going on to 9 months of doing this consistently every single week, different health topic. Just to introduce or reintroduce myself for those of you who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Kerry-Ann Joseph-McLean. My husband, Cornel McLean, is the one who welcomed you to our call. We are health enthusiasts. We are not health professionals. We're not in that field, but we want to do and we want to share with you from our heart to your heart how passionate we are about health, being proactive about health. And from all personal stories, from all personal pain and challenges, and through sickness and through death in our family, the journey has been, eye-opening for us. And so as we impart upon you what we have been able to gain, hopefully it can add value to you. Cornell McLean is not only my husband, life partner, but he's my best friend and my confidant, as well as business partners, as we continue to build and create a legacy through health and other aspects of our life as we are able to pour into you. Hopefully you can receive, and of course, do your best to take some notes. We'll have an opportunity for Q&A as well at the end. And so today's topic is on peptides. So one of our attendees for this health talk brought this to our attention. And again, we love interaction and feedback. If there's a specific topic that we have not covered as yet, or you have a topic you'd like to gain more information on, feel free to put it in the comments as to what topic you'd like us to expand on in the way of information that we actually get from credible sites. So just to let you know, most of the things that information that I gather or do research on is are from credible sites like PubMed, which is the Public Medical Library. That is a credible site. Also from Mayo Clinic, John Hopkins. I also get from the Cancer Society, Cancer Website Institute here in Canada. We also get information from Harvard and Yale, different websites, but these are credible documented studies that have great findings. And so I sort of try to bring them under one umbrella so that we can gain some sort of information as to how we can improve our lives. Now, you may or may not know someone who may say, well, I have challenges or I have a deficiency in peptides because that's not something we speak on, but there are things that are related, they're connected that will cause you to sort of think, okay, I didn't realize that's connected, right? So as I'm sharing this with you, again, feel free to ask questions at the end. If you're shy, put a your question in the comments and I can quickly read it and I can try to address that for you. If I don't have the information, we actually have a great mentor. His name is Dr. Bob Rakowski. He is a naturopathic doctor, a nutritionist, a kinesiologist, and a chiropractor. He has many doctrines. And so we normally reach out to him if we have questions that are on the medical side that we don't have the information to provide to you, but we try to answer as many questions as we can during this review. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Just let me know that you can actually see it. Give me 1 second. All right. I can share this, and I'm sharing this page. Just let me know you can actually see it as well. I'm having a little challenge here. I do apologize. You know, when you're trying to do something, challenges do happen, but you work in spite of. One of the things that happened with me is that my glasses, one of the lens fell out as just as I was about to come on camera and I had to pop it back in. And of course, I'm trying to open up my PowerPoint and that's giving me a little bit of challenge. So this is why whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to achieve, there's going to be challenges, but this is how you define your character, right? Persistence is key. So as I do this, here we go. Awesome. So now I can share my screen. Awesome. I think we have success here. Great. Share. Now, just let me know if you can see my screen. Put a one in the chat for me, please, if you can. So I want to make sure you can. Okay. Thank you so much. Awesome. So, sorry for that minor inconvenience, but again, if you're trying to do something to share, glitches will happen, but this also just shows that what we want to share with you is important. Of course, we want to make sure we share the right information that aligns with what we're sharing with you. And of course, pouring into you. So the synthesized peptides can come in different forms that you may not realize, because we tend to say 1 and 1 equals 2, but really it could be 1 and 1 equals 11, meaning that things are connected in a way that once it's in balance, it works perfectly. Your body, it aligns, and you're healthy. You're in a homeostasis state. And then there are other times when you're off balance in your health. That's where dis-ease, when the body's not at ease. So when the body's not at ease, that's where we get dis-ease. And so things like it would not connect peptide deficiency with cardiovascular disease or diabetes or your gut. You may have like an imbalance there, or even your blood pressure, high or low. So there are other factors as well that can cause you to be deficient. But this is just some of the signs that I want to bring to your attention. Now, we'll not be covering all because there's a lot of information on peptides. And I want to thank again the person who brought this to my attention. It was a little bit challenging because no one speaks about peptides to that extent. We hear about diabetes and we hear about the external things like hair loss and skin, vision, all of that stuff. We may hear, fatigue, all of these things, but we don't tie it to peptides deficiency. So what is peptide deficiency? Well, basically, it's a condition where the body doesn't have enough essential peptides, the molecules. So this is in your body, so operating the way it's supposed to. When it actually isn't working correctly, that's when you find issues coming. You fall into this challenge of your health. So this is actually a short chain of amino acids, so that act as a messenger, sort of sending information to and from. That actually helps to perform a vital function. So think of your body as the internet of the earth, or internet that's out there. Everything is connected. So if it's not feeding and giving it the right signals, right information, this is where things are in your body, your cells, your blood, everything, your organs are being starved of the nutrients it needs. So from amino acids to peptides to protein, there's a link. So the symptoms can include things like impaired wound healing. So think of someone who may be diabetic and they have a cut, and as their healing ability isn't the same as someone who does not have diabetes. Could be skin issues, that you may have a breakdown of vitamin deficiency or peptides. Hair loss can happen different seasons in your life, different situations, overly stressed body, oxidative stress, all these things can happen. Your susceptibility in conditions like heart failure or a distress in your heart or heart disease. So these signs can also point to health issues. So you may not think that it's an underlying issue with your peptides, but these are where you actually, because nothing's really tested unless you have certain indicators that you tell your doctor or you yourself are aware of, that you can ask them to test you, because there's a test that can be done for that. So a peptide deficiency is diagnosed through peptide testing. So if you go to your doctor for your annual checkup and you're just doing a regular physical examination, some blood work, if they see some indicators, they may not even think to check for a peptide deficiency. Because most of us, or actually all of us, are deficient in some type of nutrients in our body, because we know what we're consuming for food may not give us the right supplements we need in order to have our body perform at its optimal best. So diagnosed with this is something that has to be spoken to with your doctor, but it's something to build to bring awareness to. So it can actually be addressed by targeting supplements or even your lifestyle changes that supports your body natural function. Again, the body doesn't lie, it tells you exactly how it feels. It shows you through the exterior or internally, your brain, your body, everything about you. If it feels off, you can say, well, I feel a little bit off. You can't put your finger on it. Body is saying something's not right, quite right, and it's signaling to you to just pay attention to the things that are sort of like causing your body to go into this, well, this ease mode, or in a sense where you feel this, your body's sort of feeling stressed. So things like indicators of peptide deficiency could be like your skin and hair problems. You can have hair loss along the hairline, could be the actual part, the body of your hair, excessive breakage, your impaired healing, wound healing, as I mentioned before. Your skin quality is poor. So, for example, myself, for about 21 years, I suffered with severe acne. And until I started giving it the right nutrients, then I started seeing changes. So, for example, with me being deficient, I didn't quite know in the 20s, 30s, 40s, you don't know what you're deficient in because you really haven't paid attention. So once you know more, once you know, you do better, right? So excessive hair loss, as I mentioned, skin like rashes could happen because you may have an underlying condition that you're not aware of. For example, people that are have issues with dermatitis, psoriasis, all these things are all deficient in some type of nutrient, which is showing on the external part, but also doing something that's not so good on your inside. So these are things that to pay attention to. Now, our body has free radicals. We get it through the environment, through the things that we eat, the stress that we actually impose upon ourselves, and poor nutrition. All of these things can cause an imbalance. So if your body's lacking things like antioxidants and the right amino acids, that's where you sort of go off kilter. So I mentioned before about if you had, for example, you have a wound, and the perfect example, like I had a schoolmate from back home, didn't know she was diabetic, didn't get tested for it, stepped on a needle, stayed in her foot. She got gangrene. She actually had to lose the whole leg. But the stages that were being ignored, those are things that could have saved her leg if she was able to identify or at least be proactive in a sense. I'm not blaming her because she lost a leg, but saying that things that we're not mindful of, we sort of put aside or we ignore. Poor nutrition is a factor, free radicals in our body that's there, we need to get rid of that. So there's a balance, as I mentioned before. One of the other things too as an indicator for peptide deficiency is your metabolic dysfunction. So that's actually related to regulation of your hunger, your energy, and your nutrient use. So that is sort of it's not balanced, sort of out of whack, so to speak. These are where things can happen. For example, there's something called oxidative stress. And I'll break that down for you in a little bit as to what that means. So oxidative stress or the metabolic dysfunction is like it's an abnormal way of how your body's not functioning right. So when people talk about, oh, your metabolism has slowed down with age. It happens with menopause. It happens with andropause. It happens with different things. If you're stressed, that's different. What this is that there's a dysfunction with your metabolic, how it actually operates. That's where diabetes can come in, heart disease, inflammation, macular degeneration, blood pressure or cholesterol, and this, of course, is tied to or indicators of peptide deficiency. So this metabolic dysfunction is a condition that includes some combination of insulin resistance, high blood pressure, disruption um, of your cholesterol, extra body fat around the midsection, both in men and women. So if this is untreated, compounding oxidative stress, this is the metabolic dysfunction, it results in chronic inflammation. So that means you're putting more stress on your body, more stress on your heart, more stress on your organs, and can cause, further illness or underlying issues that are there to sort of uh, manifests itself in things like heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, dementia. Obesity is one, which is a given that happens as your metabolic condition is not balanced. And kidney disease can happen, liver disease, even glaucoma. Now, glaucoma we know, and I just had my eye test, my eye exam done. It's actually more prevalent in the Caribbean, in Caribbean people. This is something that's been found out through up the eye exams that a lot of Caribbean people are higher risk of glaucoma in the Caribbean. So that's something you need to pay attention to. And of course, macular degeneration happens as well over time. So this actually can be tested or detected through retinal eye exam. So when the optometrist or ophthalmologist checks your eye, the back of your eye, they can see what kind of damage is happening, which is directly linked to your metabolic damage or metabolic issue that you may have, which could be a potential for dysfunction. So observing changes in a blood vessel through the back of the eye, presence of hemorrhages or cholesterol, even inflammation in the retinal. These are things that go untreated, can cause severe damage. So that actually can happen where you have vision loss first, but other things can happen, which is slowly shutting down your body if left untreated. So peptides are a short chain, as I mentioned before, of amino acids. So it's the building block for protein. And so it's a balance. If you have too much protein in the body or the brain, it's an off balance. And proteins, I'm not speaking about what you consume, it's how the body actually functions. So they act as signaling these molecules to carry the messages I mentioned before. That if that is broken, that's where you have the challenges for deficiency. So one of the other areas of further signs of the peptide deficiencies, things like digestive issues. You're bloated more often than you normal, right? You may say, well, I ate something that made me bloated. That may be an underlying condition. So not to be an alarmist, but just things to sort of pay attention to if it's happening too frequently. Irregular bowel movements, where you find you're more constipated and actually having a proper BM. The average person should have at least 3 BMs or bowel movement per day. In my case, when I had issue with my acne for 21 years, I would actually not have a proper BM for at least 3 days. And once I started consuming, changing how I eat and the move, and actually what I consume, which I'll share with you in a later slide, my BM happens at least 2 or 3 times a day compared to, and this has been happening for the last 14 days. So I know it's oversharing, but I just want to bring that bring a comparison or relatable my story as to how this actually can impact your body. So if the body is not functioning right, your digestive issues or you have gut issues and you have general discomfort, it's an indicator something is not quite right. Could be peptide deficiency. And so what happens? It manifests on your skin, in your nails, your hair, and your body. Sometimes you feel sluggish or you feel a little bit fatigued in a sense, or you find other things are happening and you sort of can't put two and two together to understand, okay, something's not quite right. Another thing is that what I mentioned before is the cardiovascular concern. So that means you're putting more stress on the body. There's deficiency there. Your blood vessels aren't operating the way it's supposed to be. There's shrinkage of the blood vessel, meaning you're not getting the right nutrients, the right blood flow. It's not happening where it's not signaling correctly. Like I mentioned, with the internet of the earth, so to speak, where think of it this way, you have roots and you're planting something and there's roots giving it the nutrients it needs, the air, the oxygen, all of that. All of this is a balance. So if your heart isn't getting the right things, the right signals, the right nutrients, the right blood flow, this is where you get the cardiovascular concern. Another part too is just to break down some of the things you can think of as in the body that may be related to peptide deficiency. So what do peptides do? What do they do? So they play a role in the human body. So we know that as I'm sharing this with you. So some peptides and their function include things like vasopressin. Excuse me. This peptide, excuse me, sorry about that. This peptide hormone is created the hypothalamus is a small area located in the brain. So it has two functions, and this actually helps to regulate the brain. So it's feeding it the things it needs to stay functioning. So the brain has water. So basically, the water happens where in cells, and if that is actually in compromise, it's called extracellular fluid. So if that's compromised, then of course we have other issues where the brain is signaling to the organs, the cells, to the blood, and to the gut and other things, even the smallest intestine, smallest cell. And if that is actually the signal is not happening, that's where you have an issue where because you're deficient, right? So this is an antidiuretic hormone. That's what it's called in layman's term. So if basically you're thinking of it this way, your kidneys absorb water, all right? But if you think consuming things like too much alcohol, and you find that you're urinating too much, especially people who have issues with their kidney issues or they're diabetic, and they find that they're actually going to urinate more frequently, or that they're not even realizing that they're diabetic, but they find you're urinating more frequently. It's basically your brain. There's a misalignment here between your brain and your kidneys, right? So in high quantities, this antidiuretic hormone, um, the vasoconstrictor, that's what it's called. It means that the cause of the blood vessels it causes them to narrow, to shrink. So perfect example is, let's say you're not consuming enough water, enough liquids that are actually helping to rehydrate you. You're not eating the right foods to rehydrate your body, because some foods are actually water-based, mostly water. If you're not consuming the right thing, your vessels will narrow. And so this actually is a concern. Consequence, your blood pressure will rise. Another thing would be another hormone, another peptide hormone is called oxytocin. So it's produced in the pituitary gland, again in the brain, and it's made up of 9 amino acids. Now, if your body is deficient in amino acids because it's not getting the right things, your brain won't function the way it's meant to. So this can cause one of the things, example of this would be the oxytocin causes the uterus, as in a woman, the uterus to contract during childbirth. So oxytocin plays a pivotal role, for example, for those who've had the fortune to have a child and to be able to breastfeed. Although, of course, it can be challenging for that for many women. It actually helps with the flow of milk ejection. So that actually works from the brain to the area that it needs to function from. So for example, it's called the cuddle hormone or the love hormone, right? So that's what we call it. That's what people tend to snuggle up together and bond socially. So I get my oxytocin in other ways. So deficit is another one. Peptide is active in the immune system. So people who have issues like autoimmune issues or disorder, or they have an issue, a health challenge. For example, someone who may have fibromyalgia or lupus, or they may even have another condition, even a skin condition like vitiligo. That's actually an autoimmune issue. If you have conditions like psoriasis, these are all autoimmune issues, and there's so many autoimmune issues systems, sorry, that's compromised. And so, if these peptides are impacting, or the deficiency is impacting the immune system, of course, it's going to be like a domino effect. So what would actually help to promote the wound healing process can be compromised if you are if this is not functioning, this defenses, like a defenses is not promoting this, that means your body won't heal the way it's meant to heal. It's not getting the right things. Another one is called angiotensins. So this peptides, the hormones, is part of the renin-angiotensin system. I know if I say it fast 3 or 4 times, I might bite my tongue, but they help to regulate the blood pressure. That's basically what it does. And so it stimulates the release of aldosterone, and so the adrenal cortex, it promotes sodium retention in the kidneys. So we talk about where if you're going to frequent urination, this part actually plays a role in that. So these types of peptides, there's also 2 types. This is called endogenous peptide. So it's made by the body. naturally, and they are naturally released from protein, so secreted from cells in the body. So of course, everything is working according as nature, your creator designed it to be. So if this is working well, great. But if it's not, then of course it's going to be compromised. So exogenous genus peptide, again, tongue twister here, they're manufacturers. So this is something that's actually provided externally so the body can actually consume it and to be able to get back some of the to sort of balance the deficiency that you may have experienced or been advised of. Now, some people can have these manufactured peptides. Some can, depending on their body and the allergies that they have or sensitivities they have, but I want to bring it to your attention. There's also something called peptide therapy, and this actually is something you can actually. I found it through a clinic, not a Canadian clinic, but I found it, and the information is right here. It helps to improve the weight loss, hair and skin, mental functions, all the things I mentioned before, and overall composition. Sometimes even with deficiency, it leads to a vitamin deficiency. You may find you might have tinglings in the fingers and the toes, even your thighs, and some people call it neuropathy. But you may not have neuropathy, but you may be deficient in a vitamin, which can lead to tingling or stiffening of the fingers. And some people who may have arthritis or may have rheumatoid arthritis, that might be something they're experiencing, but they could also be deficient in a vitamin. So one of the things I want to share with you is how can we be proactive in what we do to ensure that we're not deficient? Well, first of all, get a test done. Even if the doctor asks you, well, why do you have to do that? It may cost you money to do that. Take that investment in yourself, even if it's once a year that you see your doctor and have them tested. But you can also do something from now, from this present moment, to ensure that you're getting the right nutrients. So, for example, how do you shift your body from free radicals, because we all have it, to getting the right amino acids, antioxidants, nutrients, minerals, vitamins that we can consume to help us to live our best self? So one of the things is of course your diet, being aware of what you're consuming, what goes in is what comes out. What you eat is what you are. Sometimes we all have these moments where we feel stressed, so we gravitate to chocolate, like myself, but I go for the good kind. But of course, everything is in balance. So if you're thinking of what do I do? Well, make sure you try to get as much sleep as you can. You may have challenges right now with sleep because you may be going through a season of, in your life where you're not able to sleep as much. And that has been one of my things, a challenge for myself, to make sure at least I get minimum 6 to 7 hours of sleep, depending on, of course, of how you work, night shift, day shift, you may have a business. Try to get that, or even some power naps, I call them, during the day, to sort of balance yourself, to distress yourself, right? Things like supporting yourself with the nutrients, the foods you eat. Now, if you're vegan, you can actually get a substitution for some of the things that are not vegan type food or vegetarian. But no, things like fish, make sure that they are wild caught, not farm fed, because of all the antibiotics that are fed through locally grown in ponds or in the farms for the fish, chicken, meats. Make sure it's all wild. Even though it may cost a little bit more, it's what you put in is what comes out, how your body performs, right? Cheese, if you can't have cheese, depending on you have, issues with your immune system or other condition, you can actually do something like my friend does, is called an elimination diet. Sort of eliminate the things that pay attention to what you're doing, journal what you're eating. Maybe a bit more tedious, but at least you're trying to keep track for a week or two, or maybe 4 weeks, and see whenever you eat something, what happens to your body. Then you can actually tailor make a plan for yourself as to what you consume. Quinoa is a great source of protein, lots of nutrients, depending on the rice you have, brown rice versus white rice, barley if you can. Some people can have soybeans, some people can't. Lots of legumes, you can have that. Make sure you have reduce the amount of meat that you eat instead of 3 times a week, for example, once a week, because of all the antibiotics that can happen. You'll become more insulin resistant if you are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Uh, Eating things with lots of antioxidants, things that give you 4 amino acids, and of course, balancing all of that as best as you can, and also reducing the amount of stress, because stress can come from different places, your home, your work, you're driving on the traffic, you're interacting with someone, you go into the grocery store, you may be highly stressed, you may be thinking about finances, all different things, your family, your household, your dynamics. So manage your stress the best that you can. Have some sort of a coping mechanism, or like I call it like a virtual arsenal of coping mechanism. For me, it's walking, listening to music. I like Christian music, so I listen to that. With walking or breathing exercises, meditating, prayer, I do that as well. So you may not, I'm not trying to impose my faith on you, but I'm sharing with you the things you can do to sort of distress your body, especially when you've had a very, very challenging day, week, or month. Another thing is what I want to share with you is the superfood aspect of it. Now we know we have foods we can buy, that we think are good for us to eat because it's considered healthy, but they may not have all the nutrients your body needs because where it is grown may be depleted, the soil might be depleted in nutrients, especially to keep, using the same land over and over again without pouring into the land itself. We're giving it back what it needs. So if you're eating food, yes, for fuel, you may not get the right type of nutrients the body needs to perform at its optimal best. So again, think of not just food and other types of supplements may not be the right dosage because you're consuming maybe a multivitamin. Consider things like superfoods. I love blueberries. I love goji berries. I love pumpkin seeds. You may not like those, but I'm gonna share with you. These are all superfoods. I actually love a lot of different things in moderation. One of the things I fell in love with is reishi. Rishi came into my life about 14 years ago. I mentioned to you about my acne-prone skin and different things that happening with my digestive and my BM. And I noticed after about 3 weeks of just trying something different for about 3 weeks, I saw some changes. And I said, okay, I didn't change anything else. All I did was just infuse, and I'm very bad at vitamins, by the way. If you are, then you can put a two in the chat to say you're not as consistent like me. I wouldn't feel so bad. All right, but reishi, I love it because I didn't know about this. It's called Ganoderma lucida. I didn't hear about this until 14 years ago. And the timing for me, it wasn't right. My aunt had just passed. She had ALS and she had Pick's disease. And after 2 years after retirement, she passed away. We tried everything that we could, and she sort of fell into the crack because there was no dietary restrictions. There was no medication to give her because of the two conditions she was fighting with. And unfortunately, she passed away within 2 years of retiring. And we felt helpless. And we prayed and we asked for something to come into our life, and this was presented to me 3 weeks after we laid her to rest. So for me, it at the time it felt unfair, but I realized there's a purpose behind it because it wasn't just meant for that one person, my aunt who we love, but for us to share with you the people that we have not yet met and are about to meet. So it's beyond myself and those of you here on this call to share what you know within your heart that can help someone else. Because once we're gone from this earth, we can't share anything else. We can't pour into others because you're no longer here. So if I can pour into you what I've learned and what I've been able to experience myself, then it does my heart good. Not only is reishi a great superfood to consume, it has been about for over 2,000 years. In the Eastern culture, this is actually being recommended by doctors to consume along with their medication for heart, for different type of conditions that they can actually consume. Those who are going through cancer treatment, those who are going through heart challenges, stroke, diabetes, they're actually being advised, especially in Japan. So on the Western side of the world, we tend to be about 20 years behind. I've noticed that. But if you're from the Caribbean, we know different things that can help you, right? But again, if you take things that are not that conflict with your medication, it actually reduces the effectiveness of that medication if you're taking medication. But what I've learned over the last 14 years by listening to doctors and naturopathic doctors, by the way, just to make that clear, that reishi, and along with other information I've found through credible science, is that there's no negative interaction with medication. And for my mom, she was diabetic and she had a stroke, she was able to consume this and still take her medication. Things like turmeric and ginkgo biloba she couldn't have because it actually impacted with her beta block, her heart medication. So reishi, spirulina, goji berry, all these are great, but just keep in mind, On the hierarchy of all superfoods on the planet, reishi has been considered in the last several decades to be number one through all of the findings they've found. Why is that? Well, one of the things that we need to supplement our diet. It's a given. So put things into perspective. Our body needs antioxidants. It needs the right nutrients. So if you love avocados, which I'm not a fan of, but if you love avocado, you need to have 7 whole avocados. I'm not speaking about the big Caribbean ones, but the small ones they have here in the market. I need 7 of those to get the equivalent of 1 dose of the Ganoderma lucidum. If you love chocolate like myself, well, how much chocolate can you have to get the equivalent, right? If I love green tea, you need to have 54 cups of green tea per day to get the same amount of the antioxidants you need from a single dose of the Ganoderma lucidum, which is called reishi. Why is that? Because it's considered a superfood. So our body needs things like omega-3s, probiotics, prebiotics. We need things like that helps us with our inflammation. If you have a child with you may be on anti-inflammatory medication. Of course, you need to speak to a natural doctor to make sure it's right for you. But everything else, as for what we know, that you can consume this from all the studies and findings we've found. So not only does it support circulation, it boosts your stamina, less fatigue, it rejuvenates you, provides you clearer skin, which I can attest to for myself. Oxygenates the body. It's a natural detoxification, nothing harsh. It actually has, not like back home we say we're gonna have like some sort of detox, which is very hard on the system and the stomach. But it's actually a natural detoxification with no negative side effects. Mental alertness, supports the immune system, and so much more. It also helps to improve the body healing capacity. I'm going to bring a little disclaimer with my mom. She was diabetic. Unfortunately, she passed away 2 years ago, 2 years ago from something else. But I took care of her for 2 years at home when she was bedridden. And the PSWs, personal service workers, along with myself, that asked why is her skin so clear? Why she doesn't have breaking up the skin? Why she doesn't have a skin like a diabetic? I said because we're doing stuff right, not only externally, but we can give her a consumption of this Ganoderma that helps to keep her skin healthy. And of course, she's still taking the medication. So I can share with you my personal story with my mom. So this medicinal mushroom is considered also a food supplement, and we can't overdose on food. So if you're thinking of introducing something that can help you with your building your body up with the right amino acids, the right type of nutrients, consider this. Now, when you're looking at nutrients, we want the right nutrients, but also consider that these mushrooms are low in calories and fat. Also, the rich sources of nutrients and bioactive compounds, things like proteins, fibers, vitamins, is what we actually are using right now. In the recommendations for nutrients, these are things to help with many ailments. So think of this as actually giving you that boost you need to support you in the right nutrients. So we need foods, antioxidants, terpenoids, flavonoids. These are all in many of our foods. Have different purposes for the gut, for the heart, for bacterial, for inflammation, things that help us with our longevities, to clear our body of free radicals. So many things that these things are good for, but we don't consume the right amount to help our body, to protect our brains, our cell, our body, our blood, everything, our organs. So this Ganoderma actually, through the findings that I found, and you can actually see the actual information here and the source I got it from. The ID number you see is where I got the information from. So you can actually go to pubmed.gov, type in the number, and you see further information on that. And these are where I found the studies from these researchers, those who've done sites. So sorry, who have done not sites, who've done studies, and you're able to find more information on that. So helping with what you consume in the way of balancing your body is, I mentioned oxidative stress, right? So if your body has too much oxidative stress, that's where you get disease, things like cancer, autoimmune issues, different types of conditions. There's so many to list out. But the main thing is that our body is deficient in many things. Or we have too much of something, like, for example, oxidative stress. So this actually, the consumption of this with what we're consuming helps to regulate the immune system. helps to reduce oxidative stress. It actually helps with hypertension, inflammation, reducing inflammation in the body. You have information that comes about from different forms, different reasons, different conditions. Again, this tied back to possibility of peptide deficiency. If you're looking at things like organ protection, the functions of your organ, these actually help with reducing the inflammation in the organs because of the amount of antioxidants that this particular superfood has. So another thing as well is that it can help to alleviate kidney issues, kidney um, uh, function that's not working the way at its optimal best. For example, if you have diabetes and you were advised, okay, you gotta check your kidneys because you're taking medication for diabetes, which can impact your kidneys. One of the things I can say with my mom, when she started consuming that, we did one test for her kidneys were actually good. So it protected her kidneys, and that's the only thing she changed. She didn't take anything else besides the consumption of what I'm sharing with you in a different form. So helping with your body giving what it needs and alleviating some of the challenges that's causing stress in your body, like oxidative stress, reducing that and then protecting your body by giving you the right antioxidants. It inhibits inflammation in the body. I'm sorry about that. Things like, for example, cardiac disease is one of the things that's a great concern. So it reduces all those markers. The gynodermalusum also, it helps with protecting not only the kidneys and other organs, but also your cells. You're given, for example, liver function. You may have an issue with your liver, like, we just told one of my family member has fatty liver, and this actually has been known to help with that. So not only is it protecting against oxidative stress, it helps in many other things. So the actual Ganoderma is one of the superfoods. We also have other superfoods that we love to share with you, things like lion's mane and cordyceps. So all of these work synergistically together or by themselves. Remember I mentioned before about your metabolic syndrome? Well, this actually helps to accelerate your metabolism. It helps to fight obesity. Now, of course, everything works hand in hand. You have to eat right, choose the right things, but this helps to boost it or to accelerate it. It slows down the aging process thanks to the high antioxidants. Again, what you consume is how your body reacts and how it responds. Not only are you feeling better, but it helps to fight stress because, as I mentioned, the stress compounded can actually be a negative experience for your body and your brain. But think of it this way. The skin is considered the largest organ. So what's happened on the outside is sort of like the last evidence of what's happening on the inside. So if you, for example, you're consuming something that's infused with the Ganoderma or you're taking it directly as a therapeutic dosage, it actually can help to improve the skin quality. I mentioned about my acne before for 21 years. That was a long time. And of course, treating other skin issues. So we have some kids who were consuming it through different beverages, and they found that their eczema actually has helped. Again, eczema is actually tied to a skin challenge or impacting your immune system. So if you're consuming things that help to correct and to balance your immune system, you start seeing things on the outside improving. If you've had a burn, an infection, you've had issues with skin disorders, there's findings to show that it has improved the skin. I had one friend who actually had a big burn on her thumb, and they wanted to graft a skin from another part of her body. And all she did was mix the therapeutic dosage, and back then there was that and some grapeseed oil, I believe she's used, and she put the two together, and within about 6 weeks, it disappeared. She couldn't find the scar. So she didn't have to do surgery. So that was her story. So I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised when she shared that with me. She showed me before and after pictures. So thinking of this actual mushroom that possesses so much antioxidative properties, it's considered hypertensive, hypoglycemic, helps with inflammation, reducing that. So it's like a well-rounded type of superfood. Now, besides possessing antioxidant and all of these sort of benefits, it actually helps with, excuse me, we call it anti-aging. I know you and I, we don't need that, but we need to put that in there for you. The suppression of obesity and inflammation through prebiotic agents, which inhibits the obesity. This is the actual Ganoderma I mentioned. This actually is one of the benefits of consuming this. Over time, you start seeing changes, and everyone's body is different. So what you may experience will be different from myself because you have a different genetic makeup than I do. But consuming something to help support your body is a win-win. As long as you're consuming something that doesn't have any that's not toxic, you have your ability to support your body, your system, your brain, all these things like protective barrier against the things that are out there, like the toxins from the air, the environment, the food you eat, things like that. So all is packed with nutrients. But think of it as, what does oxidative stress mean? Well, it's normal cells that are attacked. Basically, you have free radicals to be attacked. So that means that your cells are being compromised. And so if you're looking at things like polysaccharides and all these things that are helping you, like I mentioned before, all these nutrients, you're looking at something to help you in your overall well-being. I mentioned to you about the benefits of Ganoderma. Well, for the skin, this was me, and that's not me, but that's how my skin was along my my jaw, my face, on my cheeks, and it was every single week. One went away, seven more came. So I can attest to it for myself. I just sort of found some DIY recipes I think you would actually like. So later on I can send the screen capture to someone who would be interested in doing that. I'm actually going to try it as well sometime this week. Also, we know that the Ganoderma itself has a lot of benefits, but also it's antibacterial. So if your skin is prone to a lot of breakout, maybe because of how you're taking care of the skin and what you're consuming, you have a breeding ground for bacteria. So things like outbreaks will be minimized. This is what I know about myself. Infection on the skin, again, this is all due to the peptide deficiency that you may have. If you find you get a lot of these underlying conditions, because you have these symptoms, which again, you may not be able to put two and two together to realize that it could be an underlying issue with peptide deficiency. The infections that you may have on your skin, not just acne, actually can be minimized. So if you're looking at other things like cordyceps I mentioned to you before, which is also a great mushroom in addition to the Ganoderma, this actually helps with other things. For example, not only immune system, it helps with your longevity, it helps with your appetite, it helps to boost your stamina. I mentioned anti-inflammatory, but also it has a lot of other benefits that can help you. I mentioned before that sleep is important. Stress is reducing stress. Well, this actually helps. It has a calming effect. Lots of information on that as well. But it also helps you with the quality of sleep, especially for those who are going through menopause, or if you have issues where you can't sleep for other reasons, because your body needs to rest so it can actually repair itself. And if you're not getting the right rest, then there's an imbalance. So of course, it's like a catch-22. So not only is your body helping to regulate itself because you're giving it the right things, you're actually helping it to become more homeostasis and more balanced. So regulating the proteins that regulate the oxidative stress and inflammatory pathway is what this can actually help with. And it actually could consider as one of the other superfood. So I mentioned Ganoderma, lucidum, cordyceps, and lion's mane. Lion's mane is another one is one I mentioned before. That actually helps with the brain function. So we know there's a direct connection with leaky gut syndrome or the brain and gut axis or connection. So when the brain is not operating right, it's not getting the right nutrients, not enough water, not enough things that it needs to perform at optimal best, that means the rest of your body is not functioning the way, especially the gut. Now, the gut itself, the gastrointestinal, is considered where you keep all of your emotions stored. And then you might say, oh, I feel a little nervous in my stomach. Well, actually, the brain and the gut's not cooperating, right? Or you may have other issues that's causing your gut-brain connection to be impacted in a negative way. So medicinal mushrooms are a great source. You can actually help with not only from what you're consuming, but basically how your body's performing. So the lion's mane is really good. I love this. I actually was just introduced this one about 2 years ago. Helps with your cognition, brain fog, mental energy, helps with your gut issue that I mentioned before. That could be one of the issues for peptide deficiency. So it helps with that and many other things. And the reason I share that is that we were able to, 14 years ago, discover this brand, Organo. And so we decided to be customers first, and then we became business partners because we wanted to share the treasures of it with the people of the world. So discovering the power of the Ganoderma through this brand is that we want to help people create better lives and healthier and richer lives. So we know through Health Canada, we have the national product number that states that it supports the immune system with our patented, protected Ganoderma. But not only is that it supports the immune system, is that we are considered in the way how it's patented to be naturally and organically grown versus those that are artificially grown through plastic bags. There's a big difference. The nutrients you get first naturally grown is something considered from you're taking I was not to discredit no-name brands, but it's a brand that has less in the way of effectiveness versus one that has all the potency you need. So with our brand, the way how it's actually processed, you get 99% absorption into the body, was naturally grown in plum logs versus how it's grown in plastic bags, maybe 4 to 13% of the nutrients into your body. So how do you actually consume this? Well, if you were to boil the gandum into a tincture, it's very bitter. I don't do bitter. Maybe you do. But the bitterness of this is what's been known for. But we have the patent that you can consume it without the bitterness and the harshness and get the benefits you need. So it comes in the form of beverages that you and I love, things like coffee, tea, hot cocoa. I love all of them, by the way, but also the therapeutic dosage in capsule form. So they come in capsule form, something like this, in 3 different stages. It comes in, I'll share it with you in a second, and we have other types of products, including the toothpaste that has the Ganoderma in there as well. And we want to practice, just making small changes for a lasting impact, and that's what we want to impart upon you. One small change can have a domino effect in a positive way. So by practicing mindfulness, self-awareness, your positivity, and you're doing the wellness part of it that helps you in a way that sort of supports your health journey. So Ganoderma supplements we consider is your passport to holistic wellness. And so as I'm showing you the 3 different bottles, this is one of them here, the way how it's actually harvested at different stages of growth. The mycelium is the root, which is the one in the middle you see there. That actually has a lot of benefits as well in not only supporting the immune system, but also the fruiting body, which is what you see to your left, which is called Ganoderma lucidum or reishi. Then there's actually some small seeds that are protected with 2 shells against nature's any type of sort of like infectious, infection happening in nature. But it's actually seeds that goes back onto the palm logs, like a cycle of life, right? And that actually is the most important part of the Ganoderma reishi or Ganoderma lucid, I'm sorry. So if we are considering giving ourselves the right type of nutrients, we're thinking of giving us the best of the best. Things that are naturally grown, organically grown versus plastic grown. So for you can search online, you can go into stores, you can find Ganoderma, but also you have to know where the source is coming from. So you can unlock your full potential by consuming something, or at least consider adding something as superfood to you, what you continue doing right now without sort of changing your daily habits. So for example, you drink coffee and tea, switch your brand. Consider doing that for 30, 60, or 90 days and see what it does for you because you're your best. Your body tells you exactly how it feels. It doesn't lie, right? So the Ganoderma lucidum, spores, and mycelium, they have many, many benefits. And I can spend days explaining to you because there's over 3,000 case studies through pubmed.gov. But I just want to bring a little snippet to you today. And so I mentioned before the 3 mushrooms. This is one of the actual product that has all 3 in there. It has become my new favorite. I had this today. And I found with this, I feel a difference right away. I love it. I actually love the capsules as well, which I take every day. Most of the products you see have the fruiting body. I shared with you in the previous slide, but this is the only one that has all 3. We actually have The teas, there's some that are like this one is a red tea, which is naturally caffeine free, has both the cordyceps and the reishi. And I mentioned to you about quality of sleep. The cordyceps is known to promote sleep as well as Ganoderma and has so many other benefits. But again, it's a win-win because all you're tasting is the tea, but you get the benefits of that. So how do you get it? Well, the person who invited you, there's a promotion right now where you can get shipping for free. The products will be shipped from your country. We have warehouses in both the US and Canada, and that'll actually go to your door. And so if you were to get at least 2 boxes or maybe one of the capsules, you will not pay for shipping. And that's a limited promotion right now. And you can actually be able to start enjoying that from now. And so as I shared it with you, we are so passionate about, discovering health. We discovered health. But the one thing that I liked about this is that for me is knowing that I can consume something without changing my habit. And the reason I say that every month my mother would give me a detox when I was a kid. And I was so resistant to that, but I know I had to take it because it was supposed to be good for you. But think of it this way, you're switching out your brand, not your habit. And you're able to consume things in a way that you're not giving your brain another task. And then you started feeling the difference, and then you can start consuming and continuing so you can have that feeling of health and wealth because wealth is the new health is new wealth. That's what I'm trying to say. So with that, thank you so much. Is there any questions that you have for me? Again, I'm going to check the comments, but if you want to take yourself off of mute and ask a question, I'd be more than happy to address it. Okay, I see no questions here. Awesome. I'm going to actually take the recording off.